But what my son-in-law didn't know was that the company he bragged about building from nothing actually belonged to me. Every single share, every single brick, every single dollar. My name is Walter Brennan. And this is how I taught an arrogant man that the quiet old man he mocked at his own dinner table was the one who could take everything away. Let me take you back to where it all began. I spent 42 years building Brennan software solutions in Austin, Texas. Started it in my garage back in 1979 with nothing but a dream and $3,000 I borrowed from my father. By 2015, my company was worth $400 million. When a major tech firm offered to acquire us, I took the deal. I was 63 years old. My wife Patricia had just passed from cancer the year before. My only daughter, Michelle, had moved to Denver with her husband. I was alone in a big empty house filled with memories. So I made a decision that would change everything. I decided to downsize. Sold the mansion. Put most of my money into trusts and investments that nobody knew about. I kept enough to live comfortably, but modestly. A simple apartment. A 10-year-old sedan. Clothes from regular stores instead of tailored suits. Why did I do this? Because I wanted to see who loved Walter Brennan, the man. Not Walter Brennan, the millionaire. My daughter Michelle called me 2 months after I moved into my small apartment. Dad, we've been talking. Derek and I want you to move in with us. You shouldn't be alone at your age. Her voice sounded caring, concerned. I felt my heart warm. Maybe I was wrong to be cynical. Maybe my daughter just wanted her father close. I drove to Denver 3 weeks later with everything I owned fitting into the back of my sedan. Michelle met me at the door with a hug. My grandson Tyler, 12 years old at the time, ran down and wrapped his arms around my waist. Behind them stood Derek, my son-in-law. He didn't hug me. He looked at my car, then at my single suitcase, then at me. That's all you have? I nodded. Downsized. Keeping things simple. In retirement. He exchanged a look with Michelle that I pretended not to notice. Let me show you to your room, Dad. Michelle took my arm and led me inside. The room was in the basement, 8 feet by 10 feet. A single window near the ceiling that looked out at the backyard at ground level. A small bed. A dresser that had clearly been in storage. I know it's not much, Michelle said. But we're using the guest rooms for Derek's home office and the gym. You understand, right? I understood perfectly. The first few weeks weren't terrible. Michelle tried to include me in family dinners. Tyler would come down to the basement to show me his video games or talk about school. But Derek made his feelings clear from the beginning. He never said hello to me. Never asked how I was doing. When I entered a room, he would leave. When I tried to join conversations, he would talk over me or change the subject. One evening, I came upstairs to get a glass of water and found Derek in the kitchen with a colleague from his company. They were celebrating something. Champagne on the counter. Who's this? The colleague asked. Nobody. Derek didn't even look at me. Just my father-in-law. He lives in the basement. I got my water and went back downstairs. That night, I sat on my small bed and stared at the concrete wall. Patricia, I whispered to my late wife. Maybe I made a mistake coming here. Things got worse. Derek started making comments. Small ones at first, then bigger. Does he really need to eat dinner with us every night? I heard him ask Michelle one evening. He doesn't contribute anything. Just sits there. Derek. He's my father. And this is my house. I work 80 hours a week to pay for everything here. What does he do? Watch television in the basement? Michelle didn't defend me. The following week, Derek sat down across from me at breakfast. Michelle wasn't there. Tyler was at school. It was just the two of us. Walter, he said, pronouncing my name like it tasted bad. Of course. He pulled out his phone and showed me a spreadsheet. Your share of utilities, food, and general household expenses. I think it's only fair that you contribute. I looked at the numbers. $2,000 a month. Derek. I'm on a fixed income, Social Security, and a small pension. Then maybe you should have planned better for retirement instead of ending up broke at 68. I felt my face grow hot. Derek, I am not broke. I simply chose to live modestly. He laughed. Right. That's what broke people always say. Look, I don't want to be harsh, but Michelle and I have been talking. Either you start contributing, or we need to discuss other arrangements. Other arrangements? Assisted living facilities. There's a decent one about 30 miles outside the city. Very affordable. He smiled. For people on fixed incomes. I stared at him. This was the man my daughter had married. This was the man raising my grandson. This was the man who thought he could threaten me. I will consider my options, I said calmly. You do that, Walter. You do that. That night, I called my attorney, Robert Kimball. Robert had been with me for 30 years. He was one of the few people who knew the truth about my finances. Robert, I said, I need information on Garrett Digital Marketing. That's Derek's company. Your son-in-law. Yes. 2 days later, Robert called me back with the findings. Walter, Garrett Digital Marketing is struggling. They're 6 months away from bankruptcy. Derek has been hiding it from everyone, including your daughter. How bad? They need a capital injection of at least $2 million to survive. The banks have already turned him down. I sat in my basement room and thought about this. My son-in-law was facing financial ruin while treating me like garbage. He didn't know I had the resources to save his company 100 times over. Robert, I said, I want you to approach Derek through a shell company. Offer to invest $3 million in Garrett Digital Marketing in exchange for a controlling interest. Make sure my name never appears anywhere. 11. What percentage are you thinking? 65%. Robert paused. Walter, that would give you majority control of his company. I know. 3 weeks later, the deal was done. Derek signed over 65% of his company to a holding corporation called Lakewood Ventures. He thought he was being saved by anonymous angel investors. He had no idea he had just handed his business to the old man living in his basement. I watched the change in him immediately. At dinner that night, Derek was practically glowing. I secured a major investment for the company. $3 million. Michelle gasped. Derek, that's incredible. I know. He leaned back in his chair like a conquering hero. I've been working on this deal for months. Finally found investors who recognize genuine talent and vision. I chewed my food quietly. Tyler looked at me. Grandpa, isn't that great news? I smiled at my grandson. Wonderful news. Tyler, Derek glanced at me with barely concealed contempt. I don't expect you to understand business, Walter. It's complicated. Way beyond Social Security checks and coupons. Michelle laughed nervously. Derek, stop. But Derek was drunk on his own perceived success. No. Seriously, Walter. Do you even know what equity means? Valuation? Cap tables? He shook his head. Of course you don't. You probably never made more than $50,000 a year your whole life. I set down my fork. Actually, Derek, I understand business quite well. My company was valued at $400 million when I sold it. The table went silent. Derek burst out laughing. Right. And I'm the president. He looked at Michelle. Your dad's losing it. Making up stories now. Michelle looked uncomfortable. Dad, maybe you shouldn't. It's fine, sweetheart. I went back to eating. Some people need to believe certain things about others, to feel good about themselves. Derek's smile faded. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing at all. The tension lingered for days. But Derek's arrogance grew worse, not better. The investment had validated him in his own mind. He started spending lavishly. A new car. Expensive watches. He even started talking about moving to a bigger house. And through it all, he continued to treat me like dirt. One Saturday morning, I came upstairs to find Derek in the living room with Tyler. They were looking at something on Derek's laptop. What are you two up to? I asked, trying to be friendly. Tyler looked up. Dad's showing me his company, Grandpa. He's going to be really rich, Derek smirked. That's right, in 5 years, this company will be worth $50 million. Maybe more. I sat down next to Tyler. That's impressive. Tell me about the business model. Derek's eyes narrowed. You wouldn't understand. In the 7, try me. He sighed like I was wasting his precious time. Fine. We do digital marketing for mid-size companies. Social media, SEO, content creation. We're scaling rapidly. Thanks to our new investment. I nodded. What's your customer retention rate? Derek blinked. What? Customer retention. How many clients stay with you year over year? He shifted uncomfortably. That's not really the key metric for, actually, in service businesses, it's the most important metric. I kept my voice casual. High acquisition costs with low retention equals negative unit economics. Doesn't matter how much investment you get if your customers keep leaving. Tyler looked between us, confused. Derek's face reddened. I don't need business advice from someone who lives in my basement. Fair enough. I stood up. Just making conversation. He's your son, your company, your decisions. I walked back downstairs. But I had planted a seed. Derek started looking at me differently after that. Not with more respect. With suspicion. 2 months passed. The day everything changed started like any other. I woke up in my basement room. Did my morning stretches. Walked upstairs to make coffee. Derek was in the kitchen. He had a letter in his hand. His face was pale. Everything okay? I asked. He looked at me with pure venom. Did you do this? Do what? This. He threw the letter at me. I picked it up and read it. It was from Lakewood Ventures. The letter informed Derek that the majority shareholder was scheduling a formal review of company operations and financial practices. Furthermore, it stated that all major business decisions would now require approval from the board, which Lakewood controlled. Derek, I said slowly. I don't know what this is about. Don't lie to me. He stepped toward me. Ever since you got here, things have been going wrong. First you ask weird questions about my business. Now this? He grabbed my arm. Who are you really? I looked at his hand on my arm, then at his face. I'm your father-in-law. The man you put in your basement. The man you called nobody. The man you said never made more than $50,000 a year. His grip tightened. What did you do? Before I could answer, Michelle came rushing in. What's going on? What is? Your father did something to my company. Michelle looked confused. Dad? What is he talking about? I removed Derek's hand from my arm. Derek, I think you should sit down. Don't tell me what to do in my own house. I kept my voice level. Derek, I've been patient. I've been quiet. I've listened to you. Insult me, belittle me, and threaten to put me in a nursing home. I've watched you treat your wife's father like garbage while pretending to be a self-made success story. I decided to say nothing because I wanted to see who you really were. Michelle's eyes were wide. Dad? Now I've seen enough. I looked at Derek. Lakewood Ventures is mine. I own it, which means I own 65% of your company. The color drained from Derek's face. That's impossible. I built and sold a software company for $400 million. I have more money sitting in trusts than you'll earn in 10 lifetimes. When you were facing bankruptcy, I bought your company through my holding corporation because I wanted to protect my daughter's financial security. Derek shook his head. No. This is some kind of scam. Call your lawyers. Call my lawyers. Have them verify it. I walked to the counter and poured my coffee. I'll wait. The next 3 hours were chaos. Derek made phone calls. His lawyers confirmed that Lakewood Ventures was indeed the majority shareholder and that the beneficial owner was Walter James Brennan. Michelle sat in stunned silence, crying intermittently. Tyler came downstairs at one point. saw the tension, and quietly retreated to his room. Finally, Derek came back to the kitchen. He was broken. His arrogance had evaporated. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you do this?" I set down my coffee. "Because you needed to learn something, Derek. Something nobody ever taught you. Wealth doesn't make you better than other people. Success doesn't give you the right to treat others like they're beneath you." You looked at a man in modest clothes driving an old car and decided he was worthless. You never stopped to consider that I might have chosen simplicity, that I might have different values than the ones you worship. "I didn't know," he whispered. "That's exactly my point. You didn't know, and you didn't care. You made assumptions. You were cruel because you thought there would be no consequences." Derek looked at Michelle. "Don't apologize to her. Apologize to yourself. Because you're the one who has to live with who you've become." I walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" Michelle asked. I turned. "I'm moving out. I found an apartment downtown yesterday. It's larger than this basement room and has actual windows." "Dad, please." She stood up. "I'm sorry. I should have said something. I should have stopped him." I walked to my daughter and hugged her. "You're not the one who needs to apologize, sweetheart. But you do need to think about what kind of life you want. What kind of example you're setting for Tyler." I looked at Derek over her shoulder. "And what kind of man you want to share it with. What about the company?" Derek's voice was hoarse. I thought about it. I could destroy him completely. Take the company. Fire him. Leave him with nothing. Part of me wanted to. The part that remembered every insult. Every sneer. Every moment of contempt. But then I thought about Tyler. About my daughter. About the kind of man I wanted to be. "I'm going to give you a choice, Derek." He looked up. "Option 1. I sell my stake to an outside buyer. You lose control of your company. You'll be pushed out within 6 months. Your professional reputation will be finished." He swallowed hard. "Option 2. You go to therapy. Individual and marriage counseling with Michelle. You learn to treat people with basic human dignity, starting with your own family. You become the kind of father that Tyler deserves. If Robert tells me you're genuinely changing after 12 months, I'll transfer my shares to a trust for Tyler's education. You'll regain operational control, but the equity will belong to your son." Derek stared at me. "You'd do that?" "I'd do it for Tyler. Not for you." He nodded slowly. "Okay. Option 2. I hope you mean it, Derek. Because if I find out you're faking it, if Robert tells me you've gone back to your old ways, the offer disappears. Permanently." "I understand." I looked at my daughter. "Michelle, call me sometime. Maybe we can have lunch." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I walked out of that house with a single suitcase. The same way I'd walked in. Behind me, I left a family in crisis. But crises can be opportunities for growth. I had to believe that. My apartment downtown was on the 14th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the mountains. 2 bedrooms. A proper kitchen. Sunlight everywhere. That evening, I sat by the window with a glass of wine and called Robert. "It's done," I said. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Like I made the right choice. For once, revenge didn't mean destruction. It meant truth. It meant consequences. But also, the possibility of redemption. "That's very philosophical of you, Walter. I'm 68 years old. I've earned the right to be philosophical." He laughed. "What now?" "Now I live my life. I travel. I read. I spend time with friends who value me for who I am. I wait to see if Derek actually changes. And, if he doesn't, then Tyler still gets his education fund. Just a few years earlier than planned." Thanks for watching. Thing called in they found in 71. Things are watching. They know this. 6 months later, things had changed more than I expected. Derek was a different person. The therapy had cracked something open in him. He started calling me on Sundays. Awkward at first, then gradually more natural. He apologized again. properly this time. Not because he was scared of losing his company, but because he understood how wrong he had been. Michelle and Derek's marriage improved. She told me they were communicating better than they had in years, that Derek had started actually listening to her, instead of just assuming he knew best. And Tyler, my grandson, started spending weekends with me. We'd go to museums, catch baseball games, cook dinner together. He told me once that his dad was acting different, nicer, more patient. "Grandpa," Tyler said one afternoon, "did you really build a company worth $400 million? "I did. Why didn't you tell us?" "Because I wanted to see if people would treat me well when they thought I had nothing. It's easy to be kind to rich people. The real test is how you treat someone you think can't do anything for you." He thought about that for a while. "I would have treated you the same either way." "I know you would have." I ruffled his hair. "That's because you're a good kid." 2 years have passed since that day in the kitchen. Derek completed his therapy. His company is thriving, properly this time, built on sustainable practices instead of ego and desperation. I transferred the shares to Tyler's trust last month. Derek shook my hand when the papers were signed. There were tears in his eyes. "I don't deserve this," he said. "No," I agreed. "But Tyler does. And the man you're becoming does." Last week, I flew to Austin to visit Patricia's grave. I sat there for an hour, telling her everything that had happened. "I think I did okay, sweetheart. I figured out who loved me for me. I taught some lessons that needed teaching. I didn't let bitterness turn me into something ugly." A breeze stirred the leaves on the old oak tree nearby. I smiled. "That's what I thought you'd say. So that's my story. The story of how an old man in a basement became the owner of his tormentor's company. How revenge became redemption. How a family nearly destroyed itself and found a way back. If you're watching this, and you have elderly parents, call them, visit them, treat them with dignity. You never know what they might have given up to see who really loves them. You never know what they might be capable of. And if you're the one being mistreated, being dismissed, being told you're worthless, remember this. Your value doesn't come from your bank account or your job title or your possessions. It comes from who you are, from how you treat others, from the love you give and receive. Derek thought he was better than me because he had a company and I had a basement room. He was wrong. Dead wrong. The money was never the point. The lesson was always the point. And some lessons, the most important ones, can only be learned the hard way. If this story resonated with you, subscribe to Family Vengeance Stories. We share stories of justice, karma, and the moments when the truth finally comes out. Like this video if you believe in treating people right, regardless of what they have. Comment below and tell me, have you ever been underestimated? Have you ever had to teach someone a lesson they would never forget? Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, the quietest person in the room might just be the most powerful one. This is Walter Brennan, signing off. Until next time.